Hello, and welcome back to The Great Detour. I cannot wait for you to hear today's episode. I'm talking with Elle Davis. Elle is all the things. She's a mother, TEDx speaker, entrepreneur, and author of The Art of the Bounce Back, 31 Days of Resilient Living. Elle became a widow at 36 years old with a 2-year-old daughter, and the way she's navigated that loss and continued forward is so incredibly inspiring. But before we get into this episode, I have to be honest, I actually woke up in the middle of the night after we recorded, realizing that I forgot to ask a question that I know so many of you will be left wondering about after listening. And that is, what caused her husband's passing? And before you say, how the heck could you forget that question, Jess? Honestly, our conversation flowed so naturally, and I was so drawn in by Elle's presence, the way she speaks about rebuilding, finding herself again, and honoring her journey. I won't lie, I got a little lost in the rhythm. Elle later shared with me that her husband, Paul, passed from something called atherosclerosis, which is a condition caused by plaque buildup that leads to the hardening of the arteries. In hindsight, she recalled signs a couple of days before he passed, including extreme fatigue that they didn't realize was something more serious at the time. And she didn't actually learn that this was the official cause of death until months later, which makes me admire her strength even more, knowing that she kept going while carrying so many unanswered questions. While her loss is profound, what Elle brings to this conversation is a powerful reflection on what comes next, the healing, the rebuilding, and the quiet strength it takes to move forward. I'm so grateful she was open to sharing that with me after the episode, and even more grateful for how she shows up here, with honesty, grace, and so much heart. Our conversation is honest and hopeful, and I think you're really going to take something from it. So here's my chat with Elle. Welcome to The Great Detour. I'm Jess, your host. In this podcast, we talk about life's unplanned paths, those experiences that challenge and transform us in ways we never expected. Through honest conversations, my guests and I share inspiring stories and practical advice to help you navigate your own journey. I hope these stories inspire you to trust your path, embrace change with resilience, and step into your most authentic, empowered self. Elle Davis, welcome to The Great Detour.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you. So I have been following you on Instagram, and I've noticed you are on a Duolingo streak.
Yes!
What language are you learning?
So I'm on Spanish. I should be doing some other language because I did Spanish in high school and college, but clearly not well enough. But yes, I'm on, let's see, as of the recording date, I'm on 590 days, I believe.
Impressive.
Yeah. I was actually inspired by somebody else. Like they were posting their days and then I was like, oh, I should do that. And now it's like people are expecting to see it. If they don't see me post, they're like, you wouldn't see your story. What day are you on?
No, I love it. I've actually never tried Duolingo, but so many people I know are posting about it and talking about it. I'm getting a little bit of FOMO. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting the nudge. I think it's time.
Listen, Jess, let's go. And I need to see those days in the stories. Let's go.
Yeah, I was so curious. I was like, what language is she learning? But that same thing with me. You know, you said you did Spanish years before. I learned Italian in high school, and I know a ton of vocabulary words, but I really don't know how to string together a sentence.
Yeah.
So maybe I think Duolingo is in my near future. So
have you ever learned Spanish? Did you ever take Spanish?
I haven't. No, that's another one. Yeah. So
yeah, I went to my daughter and I we went to Tanzania back in October. When did we go to Tanzania? October. And I said I was going to start Swahili, but I haven't started yet.
Oh, well, girl, you are ambitious. I'm impressed.
We'll see. I'm a little scared about Swahili, but we'll see. But I want to learn a native language. So
no, I think that's great to always try to learn new things. So that's amazing. But Elle, I discovered you online. I forget where it was. Maybe it was LinkedIn of all places, but it led me to your TED Talk. And I was so deeply moved by your TED Talk. First of all, you are an incredible speaker, number one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. And you have such a powerful story and a powerful message about resilience being a superpower. And man, you are really speaking my language, because if there is one thing I've learned in this life, it is that pretty much most of our journeys are not linear. They do not go according to plan. They are not going in a straight line. And it's so important to have these conversations and talk about cultivating resilience, because whenever these detours come about or these curveballs hit us, we need that resilience to help us bounce back, to
Mm-hmm.
learn, to grow from them. So I'm so happy that you are making this part of a bigger conversation and sharing your story. So I would love to dive right in by talking about your story and learning a little bit more about it, and why resilience has become such a focus for you.
Ooh, okay, Jess. How much time do we have?
As much as you need.
There's a lot there, a lot of stories. But first, let me just tell you, I was with my best friend the day before we recorded this, and I was like, "Oh, I'm recording a podcast called The Great Detour." And she goes, "Oh my goodness, that's a great name." So kudos
Oh,
to
thank you.
you for the name of the podcast. I love it. The
I
Great
appreciate
Detour.
that. Do you actually want to know how I got it?
Yeah, I would
So,
love to.
this has been on my heart for a couple years now, and it's just one of those things. Starting something new is so scary and also really daunting, putting yourself out there. So I've been talking about it with a friend for a while, and there was one day we went for a walk, and she was like, "Jess, what the heck is happening with this podcast? Are you doing this or what?" It was like the kick in the butt that I needed, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." So I go home, and I was just like brainstorming and ideating. I knew I wanted the concept to be about like a non-linear life and how life doesn't
Yeah.
go according to plan. But I was like, I have a marketing background, and I was like, I really want like a good, catchy name. So I was going back and forth, a lot of ideas. And when you just get like really tired and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna like park this, leave it for tomorrow. But something I've been doing in recent years, it's kind of funny, but it works, is before I go to bed, I pray and I'm like, God, give me answers in my sleep.
Yeah.
If like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I did that before I went to bed. I said, look, I had all these ideas. None of them are feeling quite right. So if there's a name I should be going for, like, give me that. And literally woke up in the middle of the night, The Great Detour. And I was like, that's an awesome name. So that's
I
where that came
love
from.
it.
That's where that came from. Yeah. Some
Listen,
divine guidance.
I was about to say, that is the true meaning of God answers prayers. Come
Hmm.
on. That
Yeah.
is amazing. I love that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I have to spread that word with my best friend because she loved it. So,
Oh, thank you.
where do I begin my story? So, what you saw in that TEDx talk was the story of me talking about what it was like to become a widow at the age of 36 with a 2-year-old child. Not at all how I planned my life, right?
Right. I imagine not. Yeah.
Not at all what I thought life would be for me. So, my husband and I had met the year I turned 30, actually. And I remember that standing out because it was the first year I ever traveled to the continent of Africa. I'd gone to Ghana with some friends, or a couple of us were turning 30. And we went with one of my friends' church. And so just that year is very pivotal in that sense of like remembering I was 30.
Mm.
And me and a couple of other girlfriends were sports fans. So we had decided the year before that, like, when football season kicks off, we're going to go hang out and watch like Sunday night football or Monday night football, right? Because that's what the boys do, right? Like, they hang
Hmm.
out and watch football. So this year we decided to do that. But I was like in a funky mood. It was a Sunday. We were going to watch the Bears play. I'm in Chicago. So we were going to watch the Bears maybe play. I don't know who they were playing, like Houston. I don't know, whoever. And I was really in a funky mood. And I was just like, I'm just not really interested. A guy that I had been, kind of seeing on again, off again, was at my wit's end, right?
I
Just,
know that.
yeah, just like over it. So I go and I'm like, I'm just a sourpuss, right? Like, I'm sitting at the table, face all scrunched up, like, I don't want to be here. And then I hear this guy a couple tables over, and he's just like messing with people. And he's kind of not like loud, like the whole bar can hear him, but definitely just kind of like loud and obnoxious. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what is happening? And so finally I had had enough, and I was like, I'm getting ready to go. Girl, lo and behold, this guy stops me and he was just like, "You're beautiful." It's the same obnoxious guy. And I'm just like, "Okay, thanks. Yeah, bye." And then he just starts talking and talking, and he's literally like pouring into me. Then he like switches from just like talking, "You're beautiful," to like saying all of this, like, "I see the light of God on you." And I'm just like, "Whoa, what is happening?" So lo and behold, that man becomes my husband.
I love these stories.
So, I mean, and it was funny because at first he's just like, "Oh, I've recently gone through a divorce. I'm moving to Maryland because my ex-wife is taking my daughter to Maryland. So I wouldn't ask for your number." And then like an hour later, I'm still standing there and he's just like, "Well, I'd be a fool not to ask for your number." Right. And he was like, "Can you please call me and let me know you made it home?" And that night we talked for like 4 hours. The following weekend, we went on a date that lasted 12 hours.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, had no idea. And 2 weeks into us meeting each other, he says, "Well, God said you're going to be my wife." And I was like, "Sir, I just met you." Right. Like, we're good on that. And so, like, yeah. So, like, literally the rest is history, right? We started hanging out and never stopped. We got married in June 2011 and a nice, intimate wedding in Chicago, outdoor wedding. And it was cold, girl. It was June and it was still cold.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I know that was a little crazy, but it happened. And we had our daughter in March of 2012. So she was a honeymoon baby. And, we're our young family, right? His older daughter was living in Maryland and, he was starting all over again. This was my first family. We were, happy trying to figure out how to raise our daughter. He was 13 years older than me, which was also pretty significant at the time because I'm born to teen parents. My mom was 17 when she had me. So, just all of that like played a big role into it because I remember saying like, "You're closer to my parents' age than you are to me." But healthy, played tennis all the time, like, just we were living the good life, as they say. And so, what's an interesting fact in June, he was working and decided that where he was working was not a good fit and he wanted to go back to school. This was June 2013. I also was being laid off in June 2013.
Oh, gosh.
So it was an interesting time, not like a hit rock bottom time, but definitely just an interesting time. But we spent a lot of time together. We did day dates, during that time. We just were in each other's presence all the time. And I remember in April 16th, 2014, we woke up. My daughter was on spring break and we were talking about just life and enjoying life and what it was going to bring for us. And he went to play tennis that day. And he called me that afternoon and said he wasn't feeling well. He said that he like had a cramp, but he wasn't sure what it was, but he was going home to just relax and chill out. Cool. When I got home, I had taken my daughter to the Children's Museum that day with my mom. And when I got home, he was home and he was laying down and he was just like, "I think I just need to rest and I'll be okay." So I cooked dinner, clean up, and in our household, we shared those duties. Like I usually cooked, but he would clean the kitchen and then he would get our daughter down for bed. And that particular evening, I just went ahead and did all the things. But he was like, "No, I'm going to give her a bath. It's fine. I'll give her a bath." And he gave her a bath. Simone went to sleep. Paul gets back in the bed. He goes to sleep. Finally, I like lay down, settle down around 10 o'clock. And about an hour later, around 11, I hear Simone's little feet coming down the hallway, right? Like she's like pitter patter. She's 2. She just turned 2 a month before. She's now 13. That's a whole nother story. Um, but she had just turned 2 and she got in the bed, but she couldn't find her spot. It was really interesting. Like it was really weird. Like she was just restless. She just kept moving around. And I'm like, "Honey, what is going on?" And so if she ever did that, Paul would often get up and make sure she got back to bed, put her down to sleep, make sure she settled before he got back in bed. So I pushed him to just, say, "Honey, like get your baby." And he was stiff. Like there was no movement. And it's interesting because as many times as I've told the story, as I think about it, as I've even watched my own TEDx talk, like I still in this moment don't even understand like the way that how quickly I moved and how I had my senses about me, like knowing that, oh, that's not right. And this feels like this is all bad, right? Like, and so I jumped out of the bed and I like grabbed my phone. I didn't want to turn on the lights in the room because I didn't want to startle Simone. So I turned my flashlight on my phone and I went over to Paul's side and I looked in his face and it was lifeless. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I just remember feeling like this is so unreal in this moment. And like not knowing what to do first. Like, I didn't know who to call first. I was just like, okay, God, like, I got this. And so I called 911. I called my parents and I called a girlfriend who was like, single with no kids, who I knew could like get to me quickly. And yeah, so I woke up with my husband on April 16th. And before the clock would strike midnight, I didn't have my husband anymore.
Wow. What a tremendous loss. I can't even imagine, like, do you even remember? Well, first of all, I am so sorry for your loss. Like, I can't even imagine going through something like that and having processed something like that. Do you even remember what it was like in that moment? I imagine it was probably just a ton of shock. But like you said, you were kind of just going through the motions.
It was definitely shock, Jess. And it was one of the things I always describe the scenes of like when the paramedics and fire department came, because it's just so fascinating to me. Like, I'm not a big movie person, so I don't watch a lot of movies, but they came, we live in, and we're still in the same place. We live in a third floor condo building. So it's only 3 units and we're on the top floor, third floor. And our bedroom's all the way in the back of the house. And so they came in, they rushed, they were like, where's the person? I'm like, in the bedroom. I show them where the bedroom is. They go back. I'm in the front having Simone in my arms. And I'm just like praying, like, Lord, please let them revive him, right? Like, maybe it wasn't too late. Like, even though in my heart I knew it was too late.
Did you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I knew. Like, the moment I saw his face with my flashlight, that was it. It was done. And I just, for me, I always question, like, goodness, I was only in the bed for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, what, like, when did this happen? Like, he literally said words before I got in the bed. So I'm like, literally in 1 hour. But I was standing in the middle of my living room. And it's weird. Like, I literally was standing in the middle of the living room, not sitting down casually, but like I'm standing holding my baby, holding my 2-year-old, who has not said a word, who's not peeped, who's not screamed, who's not cried, who has not said anything. Paramedics start coming out. The paramedics come out first. And then, like, one by one, I hear these heavy footsteps, these just like heavy boots on my hardwood floors coming from the back of the house. And just nobody looks at me.
So you knew.
Nobody says anything. Nobody looks at me. And one by one, they're falling out. And I also have stairs in my house. So they have to go downstairs that are in my house. Like, they don't even like get to go out of the door. They're going downstairs. So I'm hearing just constantly like this heavy like foot pounding. And then this must have been the chief. This is the story that I tell, right? Because I never asked or I've never found out, but I'm certain it was the chief who's the last person out. And he just touches my hand and he goes, ma'am, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Wow.
And I literally, like, this is where I talk about the movie scene. Like, you know how in the movies where you just hear a person just like bellow out and scream? I literally did that in the middle of my living room.
Wow.
I just was like, no. It was crazy.
Just pure grief and
Yeah.
shock. I can't even imagine. Like, what did those early days of grief look like for you? Like, how did you, I mean, you had a 2-year-old to take care of. How did you get out of bed and, get her dressed and make her breakfast? Like, how does one continue on with daily life after something like that?
First up, community, right? Because I will say in the early days, I don't remember doing any of those things. I don't think I did those things. I think the people around me did those things. My mom quickly stepped up. I have girlfriends for about 6 months. I had a rotation of 2 or 3 girlfriends that slept on my couch.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, if I ever questioned my friendships, that time taught me that I didn't have to. And I'm an only child. So I think that that's important to say, in the sense that the people that came together, my community came together in such a powerful way to care for me and uplift me in that time. People that had never even met Paul were so supportive and just so encouraging. So really those early days, just, I don't remember. I remember the morning after he passed, because clearly, right, like, we're getting the indication that the official time of death may have been like 11:40 or something around there PM.
Yeah.
And so by that next morning, my girlfriend that came had started communicating with like our inner group. So the message spread quickly. And at the time, I wasn't a big Facebook user in 2014, but I literally put the one sentence that I put was like, my heart is broken.
Shattered.
And people were just like, what's going on? Are you okay? What's happening? And so the news quickly spread. And so my house was filled with people. And I remember people sitting around the table, laptops up, like, everybody's like, what do we need to do? Who do we need to call? What's the plan? Like, my people took care of me.
That's so beautiful. Have had similar experiences where when you hit those rock bottom moments, you really do see who your people are. And unfortunately, sometimes you see who your people aren't as well. Like, there
Yes.
are people, I think, that surprised me and didn't show up for me in the ways I expected, but the ones who did, it really carries you through.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was going through my own stuff, my best friend said to me at the time, she was like, right now, like, it's just about just surviving. So she's like, get through the next hour. And at certain points, she's like, maybe just get through the next minute. And that's kind of what I focused on in the beginning. It's just like getting through the day, not thriving, just getting myself through the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And at that time, that's all I could think through, right? Was,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I know that these people love me and it's okay. And even the people that, it's interesting that you brought up like the people that don't necessarily show up. And as I've several other losses, as I have seen people suffer losses, I really have a different perspective right now. And so now I'm just like, I think sometimes people don't know how to show up.
I agree.
And so it's like, I don't always get mad or upset about it, because I also don't know what it triggers in them
100%.
to show up for you when you're going through a difficult time. So, and everybody doesn't agree with me on that, then that's fine. But it's just like, that's a way that I've started to look at it too, which is interesting, right? Because at different points in life, like, how old am I? I'm 47 years old. I'm my dad died in 2018. Like, loss is inevitable.
Yeah.
At this stage in life, right? And so, sometimes it is difficult, because I know that I've definitely been the friend that hasn't showed up for people when they've suffered loss in these last years. And sometimes it's because I just don't have the capacity to. I don't love them any less. They may feel like I do, and they may have taken it in that way, but when they give me the opportunity, I'm just like, it's not because I can't or because I don't want to. It's just that I literally cannot right now.
No, I love the grace that you're giving both yourself and other people. I think it's a great point because it does stir up things within other people, their own loss. And sometimes it's hard to be close to loss, especially if you've suffered your own loss and that there is something that's self-protective about it. So I'm the same way. I do understand it. And even with me too, it was a very different type of loss when I went through my divorce. I feel like with divorce, there's almost like people are afraid there's a contagion effect. Like, they don't want to be close to it, especially if they're struggling in their own marriages. So
yeah.
I understand that too. And I think you do the best that you can with what you have at that moment. So I think it's just, it's a lot of grace that you're extending. And I admire that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, was there any point in your journey where you felt like things begin to shift and yourself begin to bounce back? And what did that look like? And what do you think it took to get there?
So, just honestly, the shift began immediately.
Huh.
I didn't have a choice in my mind.
Yeah.
I had a 2-year-old. There was even though I wasn't necessarily like the immediate, like my friends kicked in and friends and family kicked in to do things. Even though they did that, I didn't lay in the bed for days. I didn't, like it just, my mind maybe it's the social work background in me, right? Like I have a background in social work. And so I just immediately knew, oh, you've got to make this work. You got a child to take care of, right? Like it's not just you. I think it would have been a very different story had we not had Simone yet. But because I had my baby, I was like, oh no, okay, what do you have to do? And so 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after Paul's death, it was definitely after the funeral services, I was on the phone for therapy. Like I immediately was like, oh, nope, let's go. Let me find a therapist. A couple friends had recommended therapists that they were going to. I created a criteria. I wanted a Black woman who was married, who was Christian. I was like, this is what I need. This is the basis of what I need. And then we'll figure out from there what's next. And then I also called a grief counselor for children. Now,
So smart.
girl, I'm not sure. I'm gonna credit the social work in me, right? Like,
No, but so smart. You just went into action and knew all the steps to take. Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just gonna credit the social worker in me. But I had people that reached out with different resources, and that was really helpful. Like someone like actually sent, I don't know if they searched it or if they had come across it, but it was like grief resources for children. And I was like, how do you talk to a 2-year-old about grief? I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do. I'm like, I'm a pretty good, I got these skills are in the back, my back pocket, but I have no idea what to do with that. And so I had called a counselor and I was like, what can I see you? I was like, I'm not taking my 2-year-old to therapy. I wasn't. And so I saw 2 therapists for a short time. I saw one that gave me like language and words to use with Simone and like how to tell her about the story. And then I had my own therapist who, carried me through like all of the feelings that I was having around the grief.
I love therapy. So I'm so glad that you took that route because I talk about it in like only episodes, but it's such a great resource to like go inward and evaluate yourself, but to help you get through whatever tough time you're going through. But it sounds like in a way, almost like Simone kind of gave you strength too, because she kind of
Absolutely.
gave you a reason to show up for her and for yourself I mean, I imagine it must have been completely draining and exhausting, but it almost forced you to kind of show up.
Let me tell you though, Jess, that first like week where I had to do all the things, like the drop off, the bathing, the feeding,
Just thrust into single parenthood.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is not what I signed up for. And I was pissed. I was angry. I tell people,
I
like,
imagine.
I was angry at God. I was angry at Paul. I was just like, this is not like, I was very careful to take an intentional route of like getting married, having the baby, the 2-parent households,
The plan.
what's the plan? Not to like go do this on my own. And, and I say all the time, like, yes, I'm Simone's primary parent, but it's definitely been a village that has supported me and supported her. Friends would like, I'll keep her if you need to like go out and go do something. Or, I also found ways to be creative. And, if there are any widows that are listening that have become solo parents, like, I was lucky enough and I was blessed that I've often in this journey have worked for myself. But even if someone is working in a traditional 9 to 5, I'm like, use those vacation days so that you can spend a day to yourself. Take that child to childcare or to school and use that day to sleep, to get a massage, to get a facial, to go on do whatever you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Because that is what is going to keep your sanity. So for me, I found that solace in making sure that we were on 90% of the time that we were on a really tight routine and that by 7:30, she was in bed. And so that I could have a little time in the evening to just woosah and unwind. And then I was an early riser too. So I could also get like an hour in the morning. That is what helped me. Because if I didn't do that, I'm not sure that I could sit here and tell you this story right now, because I just think that at some point I would have lost it and I would have not felt so confident. But Simone definitely gave me that push, because I'm just like, oh, well, I have to create a better environment for her. I have to make sure that even though I never saw this as my story, never saw solo parenting as a part of my life, it is now my life. And so what can I do about it? What am I going to do about it?
I love the idea of taking time for yourself too. I just talked about this. I did another episode on caregiving for
Mm,
aging parents and how
yes.
emotionally draining and depleting that can be. And the woman I was speaking to, her name's Isabel. She's a podcaster too and has a company that's focused on caregiving. And she talks a lot about how important it is to like make time for that self-care, that
Mhm.
it might feel indulgent and you might feel guilty for it at times, but it's actually quite critical in the journey. If you're going to show up for others, you're going to show up for your daughter. If you're going to show up at your job, you can't do it when you are completely depleted. So I love what you said about like taking that time and getting the facial or doing what you have to do to restore yourself, because you're just going to run yourself into the ground if you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm sure you've heard this, just especially as you're like interviewing folks, like self-care is probably overused too, right? Like we talk about it, but it means something different to everybody. But I tell people all the time, like, regardless of whether or not you think it's overused or, getting a manicure, people are like minimizing it to that. I'm just like, if that's what your self-care is, like define it as whatever way that you want
Exactly.
to. Like, it doesn't matter if it's going out to the same restaurant every day for, a week. Who cares? If that's your self-care, that is your self-care. If it is taking a bath, I don't care what it is. Like, find the thing. If it's just sitting on your couch in silence,
Mhm.
find the thing and do it as much as you can, as often as you can, because as you said, as you stated, if we are not replenished, we cannot show up in the world in the way that we need to.
No, definitely not. And I also love what you talked about with the community and how everybody showed up for you. And it reminds me of something my therapist actually told me about is soul helpers. I don't know if you've heard of that
No,
term,
I
but
haven't. I like it though.
yeah, it's people who show up throughout your journey. And it could be for a long time, it could be like your lifelong friends, or it could just be somebody who shows up for a moment during like a critical point in your journey. And they help you through hard times and also just help your soul grow and like almost reach your purpose. And I think back on my life and I feel like I've had so many soul helpers and people just show up at critical points in my life. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I imagine you must have had some of those during that time, just people maybe who were unexpected and showed up for you.
There definitely was some unexpected folks who like came to the throes of whether, one of the things I really appreciated is people who were like, well, I'll babysit, right? Like, if you just whatever, just let me know. And that was great. And then I had people like drop off groceries, just like, I don't know what you need, but I just figured at least this is a good start. And I'm just like, that is a good start. Thank you. Right.
That's the best. And then I hear from like when you're going through a loss like that, you don't even want to ask. Like people say, what do you need? And you're like, I don't know what the heck I need. So when people actually just make the executive decision for you, like, I hope you like these groceries. Here's what I got. It must be so helpful, right?
Listen, you don't know what you need. I actually just wrote an article for a magazine about like grief at work,
Mm.
and you have no idea what you need. And I still fall into the trap sometime of asking somebody, well, let me know what you need. And it's just like, I know that they don't know what like I
Yeah.
know that they have no idea what they need. It's the way, it's how we're taught to like show up for people in that way. We're not really taught to make the executive decision because we're like, well, what if they don't like it? Or what if they don't eat it? Fine. It's okay. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like just sending some food. I tore my ACL about 3.5 years ago. And so, yeah, that's a whole nother detour, a
You
whole
got a
nother
lot of
kind of
detours, girl.
detours. I got lots of, look, I got layoffs. I got losses. Listen, torn ligaments. I got all kinds of detours.
You've been through it.
But I tore my ACL and so obviously my mobility was limited. And I told you I have stairs. So I could
Oh gosh.
only go up and down the stairs one time a day. My doctor was like, if you leave the house, need to stay gone. there's no going up and down the stairs multiple times while you're healing. So a friend of mine, somebody I've known for years, right? Like she's just randomly sent me a bunch of, it was like a bakery not far from my house. And she just sent a bunch of desserts. Like she texts me, she goes, "Oh, there should be a Uber Eats driver or whoever, DoorDash, whoever it was, should be downstairs." And I told them they have to come up because you can't go downstairs. So make sure, like, let me know that they came up the stairs. And I was just like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to send you some sweet treats."
Love that.
That's simple, right? And no, I didn't eat everything. Me and my daughter tasted everything though. We at least tasted everything. But it was just like, and if somebody came over, my mom came over to help, I could always say, "Oh, there's some dessert in there." Right. So it's like just finding thoughtful ways to show up in that kind of way, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, and it just makes you feel so supported and not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that. And I feel like this is a good transition to talk about your book because I feel like you're doing exactly that by taking all of the lessons you've learned from your own journeys and your own detours, and you made this incredible book, The Art of the Bounce Back: 31 Days of Resilient Living. And I love it. It's like a little pocket book. It almost reminds me like a devotional. It's like every
Yes,
day. Yes,
yes, that's
that's
what
what
it's supposed to be.
yeah, like every day there's a short little chapter you read, and it's like some lesson or insight when you're navigating, I guess, like grief or just a difficult time. And then there's like a strategy or like a practice that you can put into place, and it's just like really snackable content. And I think it's really smart on your part because I know for me at least, when I'm going through a tough time, my attention span is kind of out the window and I have a hard time focusing. And this is just so short. You can read it like really quickly in the morning, get a little nugget of wisdom and kind of use that throughout the day. So talk to me about how you were able to get here, Elle, after that tremendous loss you just described, like losing your partner. Like, how do you bounce back and create a book that helps other people get through their setbacks in life? Like, what was the journey to get to this positive mindset? It's really inspiring.
I asked you early, how much time do we have, right? So, this was an interesting journey. I will tell you, I quickly knew and recognized that I had to speak and like speak Paul's name and the legacy that he wasn't able to create. And so saying that to say, like, I spoke at the funeral, right? The first year anniversary of his death. I held a talk about turning your obstacles into opportunities. I'm still not sure how I've done any of this, honestly, right? Like, I'm just like, one of the things that I did say when Paul passed is I said, "God, whatever you give me, I'm going to give it back to the world. So whatever you lay on my heart, I am going to pour it out." It may seem crazy. It may seem erratic. It may seem like it doesn't go together for someone else. But if it's what you lay on my heart, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I've been doing. And so the book, the first time someone called me resilient, I don't know that I really understood the word or knew what it was. And it was shortly after the funeral. And people were like, "Oh my God, you're so resilient. I don't know how you were able to get up there and do that." And so I would hear the word over and over again, not thinking much of it. I'm just like, but this is what I have to do, right? Like, and as time went on, I just started assessing all of the things that I was doing to be able to continue to take one step in front of the other. And so one year, I have a love-hate relationship with social media,
Same
right?
girl, same.
Like love, hate. And so, but I was like, I'm going to just push myself to like do 31 days of content because I was doing like grief workshops or virtual grief support groups. And so it's like, I knew I had something, but it was like, how do I really get it to the masses? And like, I don't have a marketing background and I don't have, right? Like, I'm just a person that wants to, I'm a teacher, a coach, like a motivator. Like those are the things that that's how I show up in the world. And so I'm like, I just want to do it. Somebody else can market it. Somebody else can, take all the stuff. But so it was a December and I said, I'm going to push myself to do 31 days of content. I was like, I'm just going to do a 90-second to 2-minute video about all the things that I've used to be resilient. And what started as that content turned into this book. So I literally recorded for 31 days. Every day, I would upload it to Instagram and no, I did Instagram and Facebook. And this was December 2019 or 2020. I can't remember which one. And yeah, I would just do that. And then at the end of that, I was in a mastermind starting off the top of that following year and with a coach that I had worked with for years, who's also a friend. And she like challenged us to repurpose our content. And she's just like, you don't have to always create new things. Repurpose what you've already done. Downloaded all of the videos, uploaded them to some transcription service. They wrote out the transcription. I took all of those pieces, edited them, so that it could be a book format, sent it to another editor, to like walk through. And I said, and so you perfectly described it, Jess. You are my dream in terms of describing it. You said it's like a little pocketbook that's similar to a devotional. That's exactly how I describe it, right? My intention for this book was to make it a size where you can put it in your purse. A guy could put it in his jacket pocket. Like you can just easily carry it around. It's not bulky. It doesn't take on a lot of weight. And that you can have a quick reset because it's meant to be used over and over again.
Yeah, and you can go to any page, like any chapter too. It's not linear. I love that.
It's not. It's just like the days, and you can start whenever you want, right? Or if you're just like, I'm having a really hard time figuring out my creativity. Okay, let me go to day 17 where it talks about being creative, right? And you can go and like, okay, let me get a little bit of push, inspiration, motivation. And so I'll tell you, you talked about putting this podcast out there and because you're vulnerable and you're open to the world. This book still gives me anxiety sometimes because I just don't know how people are receiving it. And people will buy it and people say they love it. I actually got a message a couple of weeks ago who said that they are doing 31 Days of Resilient in March and they've been reading it. And that makes me happy. And it reminds me that like, it doesn't matter if it's only one person that you've touched. Like if you touch one person with this book, then you've done your job.
Exactly. I love it.
So that's how the book came about. It came from me pushing myself to do 31 days of content on social media.
I think it's such a great idea. And I love, and that's what this whole podcast is about, is people turning their pain into power, taking their stories and sharing them to help the rest of us feel less alone. And I think, that was something that I've gone through in my own detours is like just listening to podcasts and listening to other people's stories to feel like I'm less alone. Because it can be really isolating when you're in it. You feel like you're the only one who's going through this.
Yeah.
You're watching the world go on around you and you're like, oh my God, I feel completely stuck right now. What is my life? So, I love this concept. And, one of my favorite chapters, I think it was chapter 10, but it was the one about signs and wonder. Can you talk to me? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I'm a big, big believer in signs. And especially when I've been in really tough moments in my life, I always see them. And I feel like I'm always being guided and sent comfort to get me through those hard times. But when I read yours, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the signiest sign I've ever seen.
So it is the signiest sign. That is the perfect way to say it. And what is so funny is that sign. Okay, let me tell my signs and wonder story first before I tell what just recently happened. So my sign and wonder story is in the true fashion and name of my husband. My husband's name was Paul Davis. And I've always been a person that's like, like when the butterfly like lands right in front of you, or when you see the cardinal, right? Like all the things, like those all mean things to me. So I'm driving from a meeting downtown Chicago, driving back towards my side of the city, and there's a truck that turns in front of me, and across the truck says Paul Davis. I'm sorry, what? Like, I was so confused. I was like, what is happening? And then there was a number. I was driving, so there was someone else in the car with me, and I had them take a picture and send me the picture. And I posted on Facebook. I said, you all think if I call this number, but I'm going to hold a Paul? And everybody was just like, oh, girl, if that happens, like, like there's something to it. So it kind of became a joke. But what was very interesting about that time is I immediately, like when I posted, someone that I went to high school with says, oh my God, I work for an insurance company. We work with Paul Davis all the time. Do you want me to send you some swag? I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So there's Paul. I actually have one on my desk. There's a Paul Davis sticker. The company is a restoration company. And so their tagline is recover, reconstruct, and restore.
Wow.
Uh, exactly. And so she sent me swag, like I have Paul Davis pen, whatever, these random things. And then, but I was preparing for a talk. I was speaking to a women's group for CDW in partnership with YWCA. And I was so stuck. I was like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, yes, I'm talking about resilience, but what does that really mean? So, of course, Recover, Reconstruct, and Restore became the title of my talk, right? Like,
Oh, I
that's
love it.
really what I talked about in terms of resilience. And then I didn't see a Paul Davis truck again for years. And then I started seeing it when I was having hard days or when I needed to make tough decisions. I would randomly see a Paul Davis truck.
I got chills.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. I'd never seen them so consistently. And then the biggest was 2 years ago when I gave that TEDx talk at Babson College. I kid you not, it was in March. So we're just it was like March 23rd or whatever. A couple of weeks before then, I had to make a big decision. I had taken a full-time job with a client that initially I was a consultant with, and we had agreed to a 6-month engagement. And things started getting really weird right around that 6-month mark. I saw a Paul Davis truck and was like, oh, it's time to exit. Literally every single day before I gave my TEDx talk, I was getting text messages from across the country of people seeing Paul Davis trucks and sending me pictures and saying, oh, saw a Paul Davis truck. Oh, saw a Paul Davis truck. I was floored. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. What is happening? So he was sending me a sign every single day leading up to that TEDx talk. It was amazing. It was just like from Utah to Pennsylvania to Florida. It was just all over the country.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And lo and behold, just this week, just actually the day before we were recording this, I was giving a talk and one of my friends, I didn't see it until later, but sent it around 2 p.m. Central Time. I was talking at like 2:15 Central Time and she had seen a Paul Davis truck.
He's always watching out for you, Elle. Always.
Always. It's the craziest thing. So that's my signs of wonder. Like it doesn't get any clearer than that. Like, and I know everybody doesn't have a sign of wonder that's that crisp
Mm-hmm.
and that clear. But I think what I say at the practice strategy for day 10, let's see, what do I say? I say eyes open, heart ready, right? And that is just so that you can, because sometimes it's going to come in ways that you don't imagine or you don't know. So when you do see that red cardinal, or when you do get an unexpected phone call, or you come across a book or any of those things, I think that those are signs of wonders to let us know that like we're on the right path and
Mm-hmm.
to just keep your heart ready.
Absolutely. And I think don't be afraid to ask for signs too. That's something I do. When
Ooh,
I'm in
tell
the
me
thick of
more.
it,
I'm like,
yeah.
tell me more.
When I'm in the thick of it, I always ask, like, I need some comfort. I need some signs, like, throw me a bone here. And then they always show up, like, without a doubt. I think don't be afraid to ask for what you need and what you want. And like you said, have an open heart. I think, you ask and things come back to you. I think prayer, I think intention are so important. So when you need that help, put it out there.
Oh, I love that. I don't know that I asked for it. So, all right, Jess, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. Well, Elle, I feel like we could talk forever. This has been such a great conversation. I would love to wrap things up with one final question for you. I
Mhm.
know in my healing journey, and it was in your book as well, it's so important to find moments of joy because to find that levity, to find the things that light you up. So I'm just curious for you, what's bringing you joy in your life right now?
Oh, what's bringing me joy? So many things, actually. How do I narrow it down to just one? I feel like I'm in a really good space, but what's one of the things that's bringing me joy? So I mentioned it earlier. I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked in a solo environment for a long time. Primarily, I work with youth serving nonprofit organizations. And for many years, I did grant writing, which I enjoyed when I first started, and then it got a little too much.
Hmm.
And now I do leadership development for mid-level managers, and it's really helping them get the skills that they need to ascend to higher levels in their work. And when I say I get so much joy from like being in those spaces and doing training and facilitation for those groups. It fills my heart. I actually just posted this morning that it truly fills my heart and feels like my purpose work. And I'm having more fun in my work than I have in a long time. And so that is really bringing me joy because I think that our work should be fun. I think that when you are doing work and you're always like, it feels down and it feels like, oh, I can't do this, then maybe it's time to find something new. So I feel really fulfilled. My cup is full and I'm just really excited about the time that I'm in. And I'm excited, even though I'm a little nervous about this journey of having a 13-year-old. My daughter turned 13 in March, early March, and I'm excited about what that means and brings because I know that like her conversation is different. The way that she sees the world is going to be different. And she's a smart girl. And so I know that I get to learn from her as well. So that's bringing me joy as well.
I love it. That's so beautiful. And I love that you call it purpose work. Oh my gosh. What a gift to have a work that you feel like you're giving back and you find purpose in. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, Elle, thank you so much. So for those who want to learn more about you, your book, your company, Elevate Group, where you're working with nonprofits, where can they go to find out more information?
So there's all kinds of places they can go. You can
we will link them all in the show notes too.
Yes,
So.
I'm like bouncebackcrew.com tells more about me, my story, the book, the TEDx talk is there as well. So bouncebackcrew.com. When you buy the book, you are in the crew. So Jess is in the crew.
In the crew.
Hey, you're in the crew. And Elevate Group, the work that I do with nonprofits, it's Elevate with 2 L's. So it's ELLEVATE group.us. And I'm also on social media under Elle Davis Speaks or the Elevate Group. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll link those all in the show notes. But thank you again. I think this has been such a great conversation. It really has. But like I said, I feel like we could go on and on forever. But I appreciate your vulnerability so much. I know it's not easy to talk about painful things in your life, but I think, you really remind us that life can hit so hard sometimes in ways that like we feel like we're not going to recover from. But even then, there can be healing. There can be the bounce back. And I think you're just a reminder that we need to trust the journey and, not feel so alone in our journeys because we're all going through our own detours and we're all kind of in it together. So thank you so much, Elle.
And so just here's the thing. You're welcome. And this has truly been my pleasure. It's been such a great conversation. I think I wanted to leave listeners with like, the title is The Great Detour. It's not the great end. It is the great detour, which just means you just got to take a different route.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It's a different route. So don't be frustrated about the different route. Embrace the different route and trust the journey. Truly, like always trust the journey. That's how I sign my books. Always trust the journey because although we can't see it and we get frustrated and angry about it, doesn't mean that it's the end of anything. It is just a detour to take us in a different route to get us where we need to go.
Love it. Trust the journey, rewrite the story.
Hey, let's go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Elle.
Thank you, Jess. This was great.
Thanks for listening to The Great Detour. If you're enjoying the show, I'd love if you could leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. Have your own detour story? You can share it with me by visiting thegreatdetour.com or The Great Detour on Instagram. Thanks for taking this journey with me.